just basically figured that we'd kind of just spent too much, and we're kind of running out of customers or running out of people that we were going to appeal to.
Hey, my name is Felix Tia, and I'm the host of Shopify Masters, a weekly podcast powered by Shopify, the easiest way to sell online, in person, and anywhere in between. Each week, we invite entrepreneurs to share their experience and practical advice for growing a successful e-commerce business. In this episode, you'll learn how to make it crystal clear the problem your product solves, how to translate your ad into different languages, and how to create an effective landing page. Today, I'm joined by Andy Bedell from KeySmart. KeySmart is the smartest keychain ever. It organizes your keys so they won't annoy you anymore. It was started in 2013 and based out of Chicago. Welcome, Andy.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. So tell us a bit more about the product itself. What is this keychain?
It sounds it's kind of somewhat strange to explain without seeing it, but basically it's like a pocket. You can think of it as like a pocket knife for your keys, but a pocket knife that you can take apart, and it's kind of modular. So you can put your regular keys inside plus things like bottle openers, screwdrivers, and now we have a built-in tile location tracker built into it. But I guess the way it started was it was just a solution to simplify your bulky, that bulky mess of keys. So to take like the big jangly mess of keys that you have and to organize it into a nice, neat fashion that looks kind of sleek. So that's kind of what it is.
Got it. So you're the director of marketing over at KeySmart. And can you tell us a little bit more about the origin story? Where did the idea originally come from?
Yeah. So our founder, Michael Tunney, he was an engineer in Chicago. He was working for basically robotics companies that make the robots that make cars. So he had a strong background in engineering, and he got the idea for a KeySmart because he was moved into a new apartment and had I don't know I think you live in New York, but if you live in apartments, you end up getting sometimes 5 or 6 keys for one apartment. Mm-hmm. So Michael got all these keys and thought, wow, this is like a big bulky mess of keys, and he couldn't really fix the key situation. And he got the idea for a key organizer that looked like a Swiss style pocket knife. And then he basically made the thing himself. He went and CNC'd it himself, did all his product photography, and launched it on Kickstarter. And he launched it at night on Kickstarter and woke up in the morning and he was already at $14,000 in sales. So it just went completely viral. It was an organic Kickstarter back in 2013, back in the very early days of Kickstarter.
Got it. So the company started in 2013 through that Kickstarter. Tell us when you joined and what's your background?
I joined in 2015. I had helped out a little bit. I'm friends with the owner, so I went to grade school with the owner's brother. We were in the same grade, and then the owner was 2 years older than me at a small grade school in the Chicagoland area. But so I knew when they launched it, and I, truthfully, I thought it was a good idea, but I didn't really think it'd be like a huge viral success. So they told me about it. I thought, oh, that's cool. I shared it on Facebook. And then fast forward, I was working in advertising at the University of Chicago, and they had some questions about, how Google Analytics work, how do UTM tags work. So I had my CEO, Michael, over and basically just showed him just a little bit more about Google Analytics and pointed him in the right direction towards the Google Analytics, the academy, the Analytics Academy. And from there, about in 2015, they had a need for an advertiser. They had someone running ads, but they weren't really all that effective. And so I kept kind of bugging them, asking them if they would let me run some ads for them for free. And we ran some video ads and really had a lot of success. And next thing you know, I quit my full-time job and was working for KeySmart.
Got it. So looking back on it, when you're an observer from the outside, what do you think made it take off the way that it did?
It's the design. It was a really cool design. It was really kind of an aha moment. People see it. They understand it visually pretty quickly, and they're like, "Oh, wow, I should have thought of that." And people even do write that on our posts all the time, on our ads and our posts, like, "Oh, this is your," they'll tag with their friend and they'll say, "Oh, this was your idea. Weren't you saying something about like this?" And so it was really just kind of that aha moment, and it was very shareable. We used to get so many shares on our ads, when we first started. And so I think it was just it was just very visual, was very, understandable just from a picture on Facebook. Because when it started, video ads weren't very popular or anything, or you couldn't even run video ads. So they were just, people would just see the image. And, even, I guess we didn't even run any ads for the Kickstarter campaign. So it really is just like that visual understanding of a classic problem that is the bulky keychain that, no one really had taken a stab at changing. And so it was kind of like I don't want to make it sound like we're Apple, and create the iPhone, but it was kind of like a paradigm shift in the way that you really think about carrying keys.
Yeah, I'd like what you're getting at is that the people that saw the ad or saw the image of the product, their immediate reaction was like, wow, this should exist, right? It's almost like, why doesn't this exist already? Because it's such a pervasive problem. And then when you have that, people just feel like sharing it, and that's where it kicks off virality. So what you mentioned that one of the ways that you're able to kind of resonate with the potential customers so well was that the problem was very clear. In your marketing today, or even back then, how do you make sure that you are presenting the problem that you're trying to solve front and center?
I guess that honestly, it's been kind of a double-edged sword. So to start, it was very very easy to advertise it and show off your value propositions. It sounds kind of foolish, but our main value propositions for the original KeySmart were save some space in your pocket, get rid of that bulky mess of keys so that you will no longer jingle while you walk or poke yourself in the leg. And those actually really resonated with people. Just the idea of like sitting down and poking yourself in the leg, or jingling and waking up your son or your daughter, or whatever, coming back late at night. Really resonated with people, but we did struggle. As we started to receive ad fatigue, and with our original ads, like how do we dig deeper into deeper value propositions? So like some brands have the opposite, where it's a little bit more difficult to explain, but then they have kind of they really hit home on helping people emotionally or helping them look better or this or that. So it's but that being said, you're constantly, creating new videos and trying to figure out new ways to communicate the problem. And it really is just, those tried and true problems, and trying to, really just demonstrate them in the easiest way possible so people can understand it, right away. So it really is just these demonstrative type of ads that have been the most successful in explaining our product, rather than when we've tried to reach for more, intangible value propositions, if that makes sense.
Yeah. How did you know that there was ad fatigue rather than people just didn't want the product anymore?
Rather than, there's the overwhelming majority of people that I've ever met, have no idea what a KeySmart is. We might be one of the, at one point we were one of the bigger brands on Shopify. Now Shopify's grown so much, but back in 2016 when we were really rolling, there was this one study that was showing the top web traffic sites, and we were number 53. And so at the time we were pretty big, and we were kind of pushing the limits, but at the same time we were relatively unknown in the world as a whole. You'd ask people, they'd say, I've never heard of that. But at the same time, our Facebook ads just weren't getting the same lift as they were before. So it was, it's really hard to know, okay, well, what they weren't getting the same lift as they were before, but we were able to internationalize. And also whenever we would go to different countries, we'd give the US a little bit of rest. So I kind of just went down, I talked to my Facebook ad rep, and I said, you're only working in the U.S., so why don't you try and go everywhere? And it was pretty easy to ship because it's kind of small. So I started basically just going to every country, and we were seeing a lot of success pretty much all over the world. And then as we gave the United States some time to rest, we would see that the United States would come back as well. And so we just basically figured that we'd kind of just spent too much, and we were, we're kind of, running out of customers or running out of people that we were going to appeal to. It works to a point. And eventually you kind of hit a breaking point where, as many times as you try and, refresh your lookalike audiences, and you refresh this or that, change the seed audience, change the amount of time on the seed audience, it just stops working. And then once you kind of span the globe, there's, not as much to do. You kind of have to start playing with creative and trying to figure out, are there different value propositions that I can go down into that are going to be effective? Or do I need to go out and take my original value propositions and figure out new ways to really explain them, to really, just explain them to people who weren't paying attention the first time, or explain it in a different way that matters to them. It might even be just like trying to figure out how can I create a video that has a new hook in the beginning that can really just like get people to stop and watch.
Got it. So you saw that when you try to change the targeting, it wasn't really working. So it wasn't the audience itself, but when you did stop advertising for a little bit and then started back up, then people were more receptive to the ad, and then eventually decide, okay, we have to change the creative, change the messaging, change the hook, and that's what started to work for you. So how do you go down that level? Because it sounds like at first you guys it was very easy to demonstrate the value proposition because it was a very practical solution to a very easy understood problem. But then once that creative, that angle was tapped out, you had to dig deeper. What does that mean? What does it mean to go deeper than that?
Well, it's just, if you're doing research on your product, you're going to find that there's going to be a lot of different use cases that people, reasons that people love your product, right? So you'll start to get emails, and people will list all different kinds of reasons that they liked your product. And if you were doing it kind of like in a data-driven way, you could kind of categorize, all those use cases. So, people telling you that they like the Key Smart because it saves space in their pocket, and people saying that they like the Key Smart because it prevents them from jingling, and people, saying that they like the Key Smart because it prevents them from getting poked in the legs. But then as you go down, there might be some people that are saying, I like the Key Smart because it keeps my keys in the same spot. And so then I always know which key, I can open the door with, that's a, kind of a lower down on the value proposition level, because you just might not have had as many people report it as as a key value proposition, in, your emails or whatever. So you'll just discover that there are a bunch that you haven't, ever made an ad about or ever really wrote copy about, a bunch of just use cases that have come to you. And you might find that as you start to go deeper down and, you're spending money to make video ads that demonstrate these things, you might find that they're just not real, that they're only a small subset of your customers actually care about those things. And it's not going to move the needle on like new customer acquisition. So that's kind of what I mean. It's just really, you kind of exhausted the top reasons that people say that they like your product. And now you're having to dig deeper for new reasons, or maybe just, so that's kind of it.
Mm-hmm. What are some examples of like is a more emotional message that you could put into an advertisement?
More emotional? Well, trying to go for that deeper message of, why do you actually like these? Like, why do you actually need a Key Smart, right? You might say that it's space in your pocket, but what does that really mean? That you like to be, a minimalist, and you like to just, have the minimal amount of things and be, nimble, or be, just be able to be free, right? So as you kind of can go into more, more emotional, like, it's like not like they always describe it as, there's a practical reason why you use it, but then what's the deeper reason that you're looking for, right? And so for some products, it's, for a lot of fashion brands and stuff like that, it's like, oh, I like this product, but what you're really looking to say is, I'm this kind of person, or I'm trying to attract this kind of person. So with Key Smart, it really is, it's more of a novelty item that we're not going like super deep on these like kind of more emotional, deep branded connections. Like when you think about an Apple product, you think, oh, joy and happiness, because they kind of take over the airways with these really creative, nice looking ads that really make them seem like they're just like, the greatest, most stylish company. For us, as we've done more stuff like that, where it's more abstract, it hasn't worked from a direct response angle, and we just don't have like the underlying business that can like really afford to spend tons of money on branding without receiving, those direct response dollars back.
Got it. So you're shifting from this practical reason, the practical value prop, to getting the customer to ask themselves, how can this product help define me, or how can it help define the type of person I want to be? If you can, should you always try to go for the more emotional messaging, especially early on, like right from the beginning, or do you recommend people go for more of the practical value prop, like the way that you guys approached it?
I definitely recommend the direct response, more practical approach. Like the emotional approach is definitely something that can work. We haven't honestly been able to make that work for us very well. It's always been like the very much more direct demonstration ads that really show like show the problem. It's the old saying, like the problem, educate, solve ads. So you show the problem, then you show the problem that someone would have if they didn't have your product. You agitate those problems, by showing like how bad it would be if you didn't have it, and then you solve a product and everything's great. And those ads have worked really well for us. And we make them nice and we make them branded, and they're fun and they're good. They're good videos. They're not just like straight direct response ads, which are seen a little bit more gimmicky. But so that's being said, like on the emotional side, you really need to have you need to have a lot of investment dollars in your brand in order to kind of spend enough to get that message out there that your product is really known for this emotional value point. So to start, it's really difficult if you're going to start with like emotional ads that don't really demonstrate why someone would like your product in a really obvious way. So for smaller businesses that are starting out, I definitely recommend that you start with a very direct response heavy. You create your ads to really explain why somebody would want your product, and do things like copy overlays that really explain why you would benefit from this product. And as you get further and further away from that, it becomes more difficult to show an ROI. And those that can work for bigger brands as you grow, but it's more of a branded effect that you're looking for, a kind of like a halo effect rather than something that you're looking for a direct revenue from, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. And it's usually probably a longer term investment where you're putting a lot of money up front, but you might not recoup that for a long time. And for a lot of businesses, that kind of dried up cash flow is not going to help them last long. So when it comes to the direct response copy where you're showing them the problem, here's our solution, why our solution is the best, or why our solution will benefit you. That's the approach that you guys are going with, and you've discovered that because this works, let's expand this outside the U.S. and let's go international. So is that the approach that you decided to move forward with?
Yeah, I mean, we really tried everything. So we tried making more emotional ads, tried making different, just making the same ads but just different from different viewpoints and all the kinds of things. And really the biggest thing that we had success with was internationalization, because we're really just taking the messaging that's tried and true and bringing it across the world. And Facebook is really great for, international advertising. And, if you have a product that you can ship anywhere and you have Shopify hosts the site seamlessly around the world. Internationalization really was kind of like the silver bullet that has, allowed us to, keep finding new customers and really, I think the stat is that only 13% of sales happen in North America. So if you're not advertising internationally, then you're kind of leaving 87% of the world untouched.
So where did you guys go first?
You got to go first to English speaking countries, so the UK, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, Ireland are all good international, They're like good, rich countries that all speak English. So you don't have to do any translation. And I recommend downloading the Bold multi-currency app. It's free, and it'll make it so that when people land on your page, they'll see it in currency. We noticed a huge drop off if people didn't see the prices in currency. So yeah, I would always recommend that people download that Bold app and then start with English-speaking countries like the UK, Australia, New Zealand, Ireland, and Canada.
What was the first non-English speaking country that you guys went to?
I went to Spain, Italy. I just went everywhere in Europe, and Spain and Italy worked really well. Germany didn't work well for us. We had kind of a distributor thing going on, so I wasn't allowed to advertise in France. And then who else did, so then I literally, those worked. And so I literally just went to every country in Europe, and this was an untranslated website as well. And I just went down the list of top GDP per capita countries. I studied economics, so it was like the gross domestic product, divided by the number of people. So you're just seeing how much money people have in each country. And I was going all the way down to, Malaysia and Indonesia. So I've advertised pretty much like in every, not every country in the world, but in most countries. And it honestly worked in places that you would never really think of, places like Brazil, where, Brazil is decently rich, but it is still kind of, it's not fully developed. But you'll find that you'll get like 6 or 7 clicks on Facebook, 6 or 7 cent, cost per click on Facebook. And while sometimes your conversion rate isn't as high, the clicks are just so cheap that it's worth it.
Got it. How do you get the translation right? How do you make sure all the advertising and do you also do internationalization for the site itself?
Yeah. Okay. So that was a big jump for us. Like I did advertise everywhere in English, internationally, and it worked pretty well. But you'd start to see that the ads would stop working. And I wanted to turn my ads, and I wanted to translate my ads, but I didn't have like our website translated, so I couldn't actually figure out how to translate the website. Google Translate was pretty poor. It sounds like you have like a foreign robot that translated your website instead of a real person. So what we ended up doing was we downloaded the Languify app on Shopify. Languify is like it basically you download it and it takes your website and turns it into like this, what's called a PO file. And it just basically like takes your website and turns it into English strings, so you can send it off to a human translator. So we were able to get the website translated using Languify, and then a team of native translators from all over the world. I think we had like 12 different languages or 11 different languages at the time. And so we had our all our Facebook videos. Our Facebook videos didn't have voices in them, so they just had text. So we got all the text translated. We translated the ad copy, and then we translated the website using Languify and natural language translators. And then you should probably even translate your abandoned cart emails and welcome Siri emails. So that was honestly, it was a huge pain in the butt. We took forever to figure out how to get Languify to work and how to work through it. And then we were trying things and it wasn't working, blah, blah, blah. Then took a while to even figure out how to use a PO file, which is like what Languify gives you. But eventually we got everything working and we got the actual everything translated, the videos translated, everything uploaded to Facebook. And we turned on the ads and it just went like bonkers. We were in language in every country all at the same time. And, places like Germany, who didn't work at all before, were now working really, really well. And so it was just, and you get like really good, sometimes you get really good return on investment in those translations, because like take Germany, for example. Once you translate your website into German, now you can run ads in Germany, Austria, Switzerland, like what's the other one, like Liechtenstein or something. There's like 5 different countries in Europe where people do speak German. So and they kind of all speak similar languages. Anyways, if you can get Italian, Spanish, French, and German, then you're going to open up a huge amount of possibilities for running ads around the world.
Got it. Now, what about the logistics? How do you make sure that you're able to get all the shipping set up and everything to deliver to all these countries?
Yeah, that's a difficult part too. That's obviously the first step in making sure that you can go international. We already had we have a warehouse, so we already had the ability to ship internationally. We found a company called Ascendia Mail, who they're partnered with I think the Swiss Post actually owns them. So that's who we use for our international mailings, and they charge us, we actually get really good rates. Honestly, like $5 a shipment almost anywhere in the world, I think, is what our rate is. So for us, we had like reasonable rates. We had a decent amount of traffic already going to internationally, because the Kickstarter was not just in the U.S. It had some international traction. So we were able to negotiate pretty good rates internationally, and our product is decently small and doesn't weigh that much. So some people are going to find, if you're selling grills or something like that, you have like 100-pound grill, this might not even be an option for you, because the cost of shipping is just going to be pohibitive. But if you have a 3PL, I know some people who work out of Shipmonk or Easy Post, or you can ask your 3PL for their shipping rates internationally. If you have a warehouse, then you just need to contact shipping company. But if you don't have a long history of shipping internationally, you might not get very good rates. So kind of like a chicken and the egg kind of thing. So
right. Has there been a country or language that you've targeted that hasn't been worth the investment yet?
Yeah, some of like the more northern European countries weren't. So like if I were to look at like when we translated into Finnish, like Finland is, that wasn't. I think we probably made our money back. But there was a technological problem with the product. So a lot of people have what are called mortise keys in Finland. So they're like these big long keys that you would imagine in like a like a fairy tale.
Yeah.
And they just don't fit on the Key Smart. So we ran into a couple technological problems where people are just like, this doesn't work. And for that, we translated, we ran the ads. We started seeing Facebook posts and emails. We translated those, and people were just posting that it didn't work. We might have been able to do a little bit of research beforehand to figure it out, but I'm not. It's honestly somewhat difficult to figure out if your product works in every country in the world as well.
Were there any unexpected challenges with going international that you guys ran into?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a huge. It's kind of like it was such a huge opportunity, and it really did so much for our revenues. But then it almost became like a prison, to tell you the truth. Like it went from me just having to think in English and have to think about, my workflows of just, creating new ads and creating new marketing materials and changing the website, to now I had to think about, I have to add in a translation service with all of this stuff. So it was kind of like, it took a lot of my focus off creating new marketing materials in English, and I shifted my focus to basically trying to juggle this new translation thing, because it basically lengthened all of our processes, and just made it just more complicated. So that was our biggest problem, was just like time and just having to think about, how is that now appearing in the new language, because it might have been broken when we actually changed the site and we didn't change the language by translation yet. Same thing.
All right. So does copy, like on the ads and stuff, does it translate that well between languages, or have you tried now like starting copy like from scratch in that language?
That's a really good question. It does translate pretty well, generally. You have to have like an experienced copywriter who can really understand the strings. It's like sometimes if you have slang, that can get really badly. I like the example I always give is I live in Chicago, and I call a Coca-Cola a pop. And, it's kind of like a Midwestern thing. It's a little bit of like dialect. And if I go out to New York or somewhere else, people will say, like if I say pop, they'll kind of look at me like I'm a funny Midwesterner. Yeah. Yeah. So instead, like you have to have a copywriter that can really understand it. And we communicate with our copywriters. So we've built out a team of, international copywriters that are native to each language and are native to each country, generally, the main country that we're trying to target. And you just have to have a good relationship with them, and they'll send messages back and forth if they don't understand something. So sometimes you have to explain to them like, oh, this is what that meant, or this is what, but generally speaking, as long as you have, decent copywriters, they'll be able to work with you to get it, they'll be able to work with you in order to get your Languify translated. Now, if we weren't using Languify and we were using Shopify's, if we just made a different instance for each store, which we're kind of starting to do, but then you basically have to manage like 10 different stores. Then it would make more sense to just start from scratch with translation, because you're not trying to like juggle everything in the same format, if that makes sense.
Right. So when you're looking for these copywriters or people that are translating the copy for you into their language, their English has to also be like very proficient, or what is the threshold there?
Yeah. You want their English to be really good. So, we generally just start the interviews with just a Skype call with them, to see if they can understand. If it's very difficult for them to communicate with you, it's probably not going to be a very good relationship. So lots of times there are people who have spent time in the United States. Maybe they studied here and they have a very strong grasp of English in their country, and they usually have. They usually understand like cultural context too, because they've been here before. So we're usually looking for people who really understand like the U.S. pretty well and understand their home country.
Got it. So when it comes to, is it Facebook ads that have been the biggest driver of traffic and sales to the store? Yes.
Facebook ads have definitely been the biggest driver of traffic to our store, and probably most Shopify stores. So
yeah. Now, what's your strategy? How do you guys begin the path of like starting a new Facebook ad campaign? What do you guys think about first?
It's now we think about creative first. Creative really is the thing that will make the difference for your ad. So for us, we're a gadget company, so we have to really kind of think about what are the value propositions that we're trying to get across to our customer, and how are we going to demonstrate them. I was just listening to, I can't remember the name of the guy, but he was talking about starting up an anime t-shirt company, and like his ad strategies. He was a past guest in your store. Like his ad strategy is going to be like total. Yeah, Sequoia shirts. So it was a good episode. But like the way he would think about creative is totally different than us, because it's really a design, and he's kind of showing out the design. So for us, we're really thinking about, how can we actually demonstrate how it will be, how your life will be worse if you don't have this product. And we don't want to be like a gloom and doom kind of thing, but we really want you to feel that if I don't have this product, that things are going to be worse for me. Like, so I should buy it today. So we're really trying to think about, we're just selling keychains, so we don't really get into like, life's going to be horrible, you know what I mean? But it's more just like, imagine, if you lost your keys, and you couldn't find them and you had to look for them all day, now you could get a Key Smart that has the tile location tracker in it, and you wouldn't have that problem.
Is it like tongue in cheek, or do you really try to drive that like knife into them to make sure they really feel the pain?
Definitely tongue in cheek. Yeah. So, I mean, okay. we're not having like it's not like the infomercial style where it's, things look really shady. And, so we do things like, you're locked out, and, just kind of comical, like, representations, but we really do want to get across the point, like, that when you're locked out, it does stink. And, if you could get a Key Smart and that wouldn't happen. But we do want to show, even if it is like a fun toned ad, we do want to demonstrate, what the problem would be if you didn't have this, right? So, but at the same time, if you think about it, there's really not a real serious way that you could talk about like getting poked in the legs, or, most of our value propositions are just, kind of fun anyways. So,
yeah, it's a very, gray area, not gray area, it's a very thin line, right, between creating an ad to show them the pure benefit versus showing them an ad that will show them that if they don't get this product, their life will be worse without it, which I think is an important point to point out, is that the agitation is stronger, right, when you approach it that way, where people almost feel urgent to buy this thing today. Otherwise, their life is already, subpar to what it could be in the ad that you showed. So what are some ways that you think about creating the creative to demonstrate that?
That's a really good question. So for us, like I said, really can't go too deep into agitating problems, but I think a really good company to look at is like Purple Mattresses. Their ads are done by the Harmon Brothers, which is a really really awesome video ad company. That are, like, it's impossible to work with them because they have so many people that want to work with them. They did like Poopery and Squatty Potty, and basically I recommend looking at their ads because they do a really good job of capturing attention. Like you see it and you're like, oh wow, what's that? And they really really dive into these really elaborate demonstrations that show really show why you'd want the product. And so if you're sitting here and you're thinking about like, well, show me this problem agitate solve for me, watch their ad and you'll see very clearly like what the problems would be if you didn't have a mattress and why you'd want one. And you'll probably, by the end of watching that ad, you'll probably want one. So really what you need to think about is like really one of the most important things. And the people who made Purple will talk about this. They just came out with a course. And so it's like, how are we going to capture their attention in some way that's going to be that we can transition into talking about the problems and the value propositions? So, that, and it's honestly difficult to do with capturing attention. Our original ad captured attention just with a, just kind of like a, just like a question that we asked with copy. And it was said, how often do you think about your keys or something? Have you ever thought about your keys? And most people probably hadn't thought about their keys. So that alone just kind of kept them listening. And then we translated into, or we transitioned into, all the value, all the problems and all the value propositions. But, Purple or, Harmon Brothers really capture attention through really creative set designs and costumes and stuff like that. And it's honestly probably more expensive than most Shopify stores could afford. But so you kind of want to fall, and you just really have to think about, what's either a creative piece of copy or some costumes or a set or a scenario that would really work well to capture attention that would then transition into showing off my problem.
So your video ads today, are they done in-house?
Yes, they're done in-house. We have our videographer, Keith, and then script writer, Alyssa, who, Alyssa spends a lot of her time, researching, taking new products and figuring out why people say they like them, and then trying to figure out ads, trying to write that into, value propositions that we can turn into a video ad. So it's honestly pretty in depth, and we've had a lot of like really big successes, and then, other ads that we spent a lot of time and money on that, that we thought were going to be a huge success that really just amounted to really not much.
Right, that's the hard thing with video ads, right? When you first start with back in the day when it was mostly, I guess it's still today, like text-based, like PPC advertising, it's a lot easier to A/B test and switch things around. And they got a little bit more difficult with photos and images, and now it becomes even more difficult and more expensive to A/B test and switch things around with video ads. How do you guys make sure that you can dial in as much as possible, like maybe through testing or some other kind of research to make sure that you have the right kind of messaging in the video ad without wasting too much time going through iterations?
I mean, it's a lot of doing your initial upfront research to, like we talked about with value propositions, to make sure that you have the value propositions that people are saying, that the real reasons why people love your product. And then figuring out how to demonstrate those, just thinking about okay, I have a value proposition. This is what everybody's saying. They like it. What are the ways we can demonstrate this value proposition? Demonstrate how this would solve this problem. They always kind of talk about it in the first step is like how it helped them. So you want to say, let's demonstrate how this product would help you do something. And then we take it a step further and say, how could we demonstrate what life would be like if you didn't have this problem yet, or kind of create the problem. So yeah, it's just thinking about it's really doing research to figure out what value proposition you want to tackle, and then how can we really visually show it. But other than that, it's just a lot of, kind of like gut instinct, because you really don't know what's going to work until you try it,
Yeah. So I guess in your case, you guys have that research through feedback from your customers. For other people that might not have as large of a customer base yet, maybe just seeing what works with your image ads, the ads that are much cheaper, swap around, and then trying to understand what the value prop those successful ads are doing before you invest the time in trying to recreate that value prop with something more expensive, like a video ad. So I want to talk a little about the website. So is this website also done in-house, or do you guys have a design team that works on it?
Most of the stuff is done in-house now, although it was built by an agency, and a lot of our updates originally were done by an agency. Now probably like 90% of the work is done in-house, and if we need something done, we that's beyond our scope of work, we usually ask either Cycle or another agency.
Got it. What's your favorite page or part of the website?
Favorite page, probably the landing page we made for the KeySmart Pro. So about a year ago, we teamed up with Tile to make a new KeySmart, and we call it the KeySmart Pro. It's got a location tracker in it. You should buy it. Go buy it now. We made a landing page. And it's www.getkeysmart.com/locate. You can find it, and it's just a little bit of a custom page. It's got a nice video at the top, and if you scroll down, it's got quantity breaks that guide people to purchase more than one KeySmart Pro. So we find a lot of people buy 2 or 3 KeySmart Pros and then buy accessories for each one. So that's really been able to increase our average order value. So that's probably and we did design it in-house and developed it in-house. So yeah, that's probably my favorite page.
I think landing pages, like specific landing pages for products, especially the ones that you're really pushing for a launch or one of your flagship products, makes a lot of sense. What do you think is important to go into a landing page to make it effective, in a sense that it's effective in converting visitors?
That's a really good question. I think the start is obviously the trust badges that people want to see when they come on to see your third party. If you've been on any kind of any TV shows or websites or you've had any influencers show, something that just shows, or just you just have some kind of customer testimonials, something that really shows that people like your product. I think having all of our PR links above the fold was definitely a big difference maker for us. If you don't have any PR mentions because you're just starting out, then maybe moving some blogs you've been featured in, or moving in some just single customer testimonials in that position might work just as well.
Got it. Any applications I just see that you're using a few applications on their website. Any ones that you really are a big fan of?
Yeah, I really like Ultimate Special Offers. It allows you to just make really easy to use buy one get ones or buy two get ones, and also just like all different kinds of special offers. And it's available in the App Store.
Got it. Any kind of configuration on that particular application that works well? Like it sounds like you're bundling products together. Like, have you played around with what kinds of combinations work best?
I mean, it really depends on what you're selling, but for us, we just do, take a key smart and take a different couple accessories and then bundle them together and launch it as an email blast it as a sale or something like that. Is really what we've done. Before we were creating new bundles as a new product within Shopify, and it became kind of a headache because we'd have to message the shipping team and they'd have to kind of figure out, how they were going to, assemble that. And, they'd have to notify all the people on the shipping team who were packing that there was this new bundle. So just being able to add in these, kind of special offers, and it really just allows you to bundle any way you would want, has been a big help for us.
Got it. Thank you so much for your time, Andy. So getkeysmart.com is the website. Where do you guys want to take the business next?
Well, we have a new backpack coming out, and we're working with a couple different licensees. So maybe getting some different brands on the KeySmart side. I can't really speak to any right now. One that I'm pretty sure that we're gonna move forward with is Mossy Oak is like this camouflage brand that we're gonna move forward with, and probably also gonna move forward with the Marines. So having like a Marine branded KeySmart, and move into like the armed forces as well as some TV shows and stuff like that. So because the KeySmart really is it's like an open canvas, and it's something that gets used every day. So we can kind of paint that canvas with whatever brand, whatever kind of brand loyalty that people like. So that's kind of an interesting, cool opportunity that we have, and all different kinds of things that everyday carry, our everyday carry audience likes.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Andy.
Thank you so much, Felix.
Here's a sneak peek for what's in store in the next Shopify Masters episode.
I know that there's always space for new dropshippers.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Shopify Masters, the e-commerce podcast for ambitious entrepreneurs powered by Shopify. To get your exclusive 30-day extended trial, visit shopify.com/masters.